right, guys, you ready to do this? You got the energy going. Sunday night. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get ready to go. Because we're live and it's Sunday. And the music is playing. So you know what that means? The party is starting. I don't know what else that means, but I got Shane. I got Sean. I got my boys. We're talking UH football. We're going to be talking SEC football because apparently SEC football is what makes the world go round, you would think, when you listen to some people talk about the importance of SEC football. But I'm also going to, bringing in my super fans here. We're going to talk about the NBA a little bit too because the playoffs start tomorrow. So I'm going to get some thoughts so far because I've been watching a lot of basketball and I'm sure a lot of you out there are as well as, that's all we have. But let's get to football. Let's talk about football first. As people start coming in, I got Shane, I got Sean, I got two huge UH football fans. So the sadness has been real the last couple of days, the last couple of hours, of minutes of our lives, where anything that we spend in contemplation of a season to come that's not actually going to happen. It's a hard reality. So Shane, just how are you coping, Shane? Just let us all know. We're worried about you.
Oh, man. I know. Well, just yesterday, the feeling sunk in where kickoff would have been 2 weeks away, and it's rough, man. It's just like I said, my alter ego, Lala Head, he's ready to come out and show his warrior fandom to the world.
Of course.
And now he's has to stay in hibernation for God knows how much longer. But man, it's brutal. It's like something you look forward to the whole year, and it's just taken away from you like the blink of an eye. It's just brutal, man.
Just snatched from you. I know we got a bunch of UH fans turning in right now, so I'm sure you all have the same feelings. If you do, share them. How are you dealing with the fact that we will not have a Hawaii football season, at least in 2020? Sean, what are your thoughts about the spring? I mean, do you see any football at all this year?
Yeah, well, I'm the opposite of you guys. Like, I'm worried about YouTube, all the crying emojis and posting videos. I'm actually looking forward to spring football. My father just had surgery, so the thought of, like, if we went to a game, put him in danger, like, that means he goes for me. So I'm glad it got put off. I'm very curious to see what football looks like after in January, especially in the mountain division of the mountains. That's like absolutely crazy.
Okay, I got like half of that, Sean. I want to be honest because you're coming in super staticky, but I know that you talked about your dad or something, and I know that your dad had a huge week for him, and we're all proud of him and getting through a big moment. So sending out shout out. What's your dad's name? Marty.
Yeah.
Marty Iman, shout out to you. Awesome. We were all hoping for you and praying for you. So glad that you're okay. And we're glad that Sean. I know you were worried about that. So nice to have that relief. But as we move forward and we go into this, what Shane said, this is the moment. We transition from summer to fall, and everything is kind of changing right now. Everything's kind of up in the air, but not for every school, right? So today, in the SEC, we had talked about last week, we thought maybe all the dominoes would fall finally. Everybody would just cut off football, but I think it might be a bandwidth issue for Sean too. So Sean, see if that is your issue. If you need to change to a different network. But yeah, Russ also says doesn't see any football, all canceled, even NFL. Yeah, that's looking likely. But now that the SEC is trying to claw away along with the ACC and the Big 12, We even have a local doctor that from Hawaii who is going to be assisting that effort. So let's actually go watch a video. This is an interview from KHON with Dr. Scott Miskovich, who's going to be helping the SEC doing testing. So just listen to what he has to say when I find it.
Program for the SEC, which is now published, which is 2 PCRs a week. We're going to do one on Sunday, and then we're going to do another one on Wednesday. And then we're going to do the rapid antigen, which would be the equivalent of what you do with saliva. We're doing that in the locker room or in the hotel game day, so that a coach does not have to have a decision to make just arbitrarily to say, oh, does this person look good or not? Are they sick or not? No, we're going to be in the locker room, and we're going to do over a period of an hour each team. And if it's positive for the infection being contagious, the player's not playing. And then it's done by an independent organization, so it's not like the university trying to pick out whether their quarterback can play or somebody else's quarterback. It's all independent. These individuals know what football means to our country, and they're willing to do this because they believe that if we can do this, there may be some degree of feeling of returning to normal or some light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that the public needs to understand, yes, while this crisis rages on, we do need to have the country have some hint of optimism, and football and SEC football is probably one of the best things we can do to allow that to occur.
All right, so interesting comments from Dr. Miskovich. It sounds like they're going to test the SEC players twice a week, on Sundays and Wednesdays, using the antigen. So he said PCR testing, and he talked about the antigen testing. So I'm not sure how accurate, I'm not sure how fast, it sounds like they will protect players, at least ones who are testing positive. It's not like concussion protocol where the coaches are like, nah, he's fine, send him back in. It's going to be like the doctors. But other than that, Shane, just your thoughts about them moving forward with football and this whole testing and what you think of it.
Well, I don't know. It's still just hard to believe. It's just strange why this a doctor from Hawaii is going to be overseeing this testing for the SEC. It's like there's not like a more renowned doctor over there in the main.
Maybe he is renowned and he lives in Hawaii. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but it's just I don't know. It's strange to me. Like
yes.
It's like he's not even affiliated with
yes.
the conference, or it's just. And if this saliva testing is so available and so efficient, it's like how come it's not available to the rest of the world? It's like how come only the college SEC guys get them?
Woo! Hot take right there.
I read an article it's asking, did the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, did they jump the gun too fast because they didn't know about this saliva testing? Like, what? How can they not know about the saliva testing?
Yeah.
It was just like, why did only the SEC know? It's just, I don't know. And then, I know Sean had mentioned, they're going to just test them on game day. It's like, there's so much factors to be.
There are.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I just can't, I don't know. It's still not all adding up to.
And Sean, he talks about at the end, Dr. Miskovich, how this is one way of normalcy, though, right? Like, it makes people feel normal, but how do you feel about that? He even said SEC football might be the best way of making people feel normal. So,
so there's nothing normal about this year. There's nothing normal about all this. And I'm just wondering if they found their guys. Are you willing to go along with this? So, Emirates said that there's going to be no national championships for the ball, right? I find it hard to believe that the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12 are just playing for fun in the fall. I know they love football, but I can't see them passing out the national championship.
Well,
and then the Big Ten. So, how are we going to crown a national champion this year?
Well, so I'm going to translate because Sean is battling some issues again. But he talked about a very good point as is battling having 3 conferences in the Power 5. Okay, let's face it. You don't have the Mountain West. I mean, how can you have a true national champion without the participation of the Mountain West Conference? I mean, come on, right? Because, okay, clearly we only need the Power 5. Yes, we know that already. And 2 conferences aren't playing. Dabo goes on rant about how we don't need the Pac-10, we don't need the Pac-12, we don't need the Big Ten. We can still have a true national championship. True, and that's crazy too. NCAA finally put on a little bit of a pair and canceled the fall championships, but only after they said not enough schools were going to participate. So not even taking the initiative, but waiting for conferences. This seems to be an issue, right? It's like NCAA is waiting for the conferences, the federal government's waiting for the states. Such a weird thing when people keep passing the buck and the responsibility on to the next, and that's an issue that we find ourselves at with football, is that some people think they're going to go push straight ahead. SEC feels they're going to go. And Dr. Miskovich is like, he's got the line already practiced, like, oh yeah, because football makes people feel normal. I mean, dang, that guy, they got to pay him extra because he just put on a clinic right there of how to do some publicity for what you're trying to do, because a lot of us aren't buying it. We're still not buying it. We hear what they're saying, and we know it sounds crazy. But, hey, some people, he's going to get paid a lot of money, I'm sure, too, to be overwatching that. So, just like everyone else, you know, the work moves on for everybody. And I hope in his heart of hearts he really truly believes there's a safe way of making this all work, because he seems to be very sure about it. But, you know, other than that, you know, Shane, we did see that Hawaii is starting to, the numbers are increasing here again. I mean, how is that going to affect as these schools who want to go forward? Do you think then as the numbers go forward, they're just going to push forward, or do you think they're going to pull the plug?
Pull the plug on sports for like.
Yeah, like the Pac, yeah, like the SEC, like all of those conferences. Are they going to pull the plug or what?
Oh man, well, I don't know. Hard to say, because now you got those players. You know how the We Are United that didn't want to play unless certain parameters were met. Now you got a bunch of players that coming out saying we want to play. We want to do this. I want to do that. So I don't know. Hawaii is such a different animal here. I know now when we weren't spiking and now we are spiking, so it's just it's so hard. And it's funny how you mentioned how can you truly have a national champion without the Mountain West involved? So my good friend is a big LSU fan because he's actually from Louisiana. His wife is a alumni from LSU. So he texted me the other day and he said, "Oh, you know, since no more college football, LSU is still going to be the champ for another year." I was like, "Well, you guys lucky because Hawaii would have dethroned you guys this year."
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh man, you know, well, the reason. And we do bring that up is because in the SEC and those other, you know, the Power 5, something we've talked about all the time is that the money really talks there. And we know that the Wall Street Journal, you bring up an article I shared with you, some of you folks earlier, as college football games vanish, so do their millions. And this was in the Wall Street Journal today. Some of you probably read that. Some Big Ten and Pac-12 schools could lose more than half their athletics revenue if coronavirus postponed games aren't played. So when we're thinking about stuff like that, right? We're thinking about how colleges can even stay afloat. I mean, we're not even just talking about the fact that of trying to get through this year, but trying to keep themselves above water. I mean, that's crazy, you know. Already Stanford cut 11 sports. So Division I, you need to sponsor 16 sports plus football. And currently UH has 20 altogether. So there's still some sports, I'd imagine, that are on the chopping block, unfortunately. Not just coaches. You know, we talked about Coach Jeff Hall losing some of losing his spot on campus, and he's just going to be the first. But now, as college football, as you see this and you see the millions, doesn't it seem kind of weird, Sean? Just the fact that we're talking about how much money they have, period, in the first place.
Well, this is the thing when you kind of lose the paycheck to paycheck, right? It's like nobody has like the big schools have like guys and then goes up. So it's just amazing that how much money is generated by sports and how much money it takes to keep sports going. So I mean, yeah, you miss that paycheck, and it makes a huge difference for your university. And yeah, it just seems like crazy that they're going to go forward with the basketball in the fall.
Sean, I lost you, bro. I'm going to be honest. Sean, you might have to pick up your phone and walk around Mililani or something and go find like the nearest pole. Because I know you don't live in the rural area. So I'm not sure why your thing is failing you and all your hot takes you're giving us. So I got to try and translate for you again. But Sean talked about
one of our viewers commented, said Justin Ire, he said Sean's internet connection got the flu.
Sean, is your internet coughing? Does it have a fever of 104? We'll go back to the comments. Russ also says Oklahoma Sooners 9 players infected, 6 at UNLV. Robin says, who can this player sue if one of them dies? And that's the thing. Is like, who can they sue? Especially because they're gonna make them fill out those forms too, probably.
Oh, guaranteed.
Because none of their SEC players came together and wanted to be united. Because I just play, right? Because Trevor Lawrence, let the boys play, because that's the voice of college football, the quarterback for Clemson. But that's what happens when we don't have organization at the FBS level, and there isn't one. That's why people are calling for a commissioner. That's what Mark Emmert is supposed to be, but he's not, because we cut off any of their power for FBS, the NCAA. Really, they can basically just control some of the the markers in terms of how many what the rosters look like, what certain rules and compliance that needs to be followed. But FBS is still pretty much their own thing. So that's why you have conferences trying to do their own thing right now, and I think it's gonna end up happening. But when you look at just the sheer number, so let's just look at the two schools, the Big Ten and the Pac-12. So we're not even gonna look at the SEC, but we're looking at the Big Ten and the Pac-12. And just the millions of dollars that they stand to lose is pretty insane, because when we look at just the numbers for the SEC, I know I sent you folks some of these, but if you look for Pac-12, the number one school in total athletic revenue is Stanford. So the school that cut 11 sports, they have $140 million about that they take in a revenue a year. $140 million. So that's so crazy. Ohio State takes in, and we thought the number one in the Big Ten, $209 million a year. So a huge amount. Oregon over $100 million, and this is just revenue. And so the lowest school in the Pac-12 for revenue, Washington State, they still take in about $75 million in revenue. That's still, that first graphic, we'll bring it up again for Hawaii at least. That's still way more than the 40, 6-7 million of revenue. So then on the books, you still got about 20 million probably more of expenses, right? That without of just staff you got to pay for, because you kind of just like cancel the year. You still got to have staff, you still have coaches, you still have player scholarships to pay for. And that's why earlier today, if you saw that post, I shared with Commissioner Hogue, when Bob Hogue and I sat down and talked about before the Big West, or the Pac West in Division II had decided that they were going to cancel sports. They also had to crunch the numbers and think about just how scary it was going to be in case a lot of students don't come back to campus, or in case they have to take on multiple additional scholarships because of a waiver that was granted to kids that couldn't use their year of eligibility. Like these kids last year, right? They got these spring kids all got their years back. So all baseball, I believe, got their years back, right? And volleyball got their years back, even though they're basically going to the conference championship already. But that's a lot of money. You can't. It's hard to pay for these guys and still bring in a new batch. It costs a lot of money. So where the cuts are going to come from is where we're going to have to be very careful, because football cannot go anywhere. I'm talking about the sport itself cannot go anywhere. I don't know if UH could be a non-football school ever. I mean, they could. Of course, they could be. But I think you would lose so much. It would be hard. Of course, yeah, we'll still have volleyball. We'll still have people come out for volleyball. We'll still have people come out for basketball. But losing football, losing a flagship sport like football would be a death knell, I think, for the school. And people need to start thinking on that level of how dangerous it is in these times when money's not coming in, and it ain't going to just appear out of nowhere, especially when other people are hurting, especially when the pockets are hurting of the people that you depend on. So UH is not in a good position right now. But interestingly enough, it looks like they're above the median, right? They're still below, actually. So about 15 million below the FBS median right now. So that goes back to showing, I mean, had they added 2 million, they said they spend about 2 million on subsidies, right? So UH pays subsidies to all the teams that are coming in. So this is a very bad deal that needs to go away. But this is like the Jones Act or something, or whatever people like to talk about. All these these rules that are handicapping really Hawaii people and Hawaii schools. And but even if you add that 2 million back onto the total revenue, you still got a huge shortfall. So I guess my question is, I mean, where do we go from here, Shane? I mean, what's your first? So I shared that tweet last week, right? Dave Shoji said, I can think of 10 other ways besides cutting Jeff Hall, right? Because that's what UH did. That was their first move. They got rid of their sand volleyball coach. But that's not. It's going to take more than that. Shane, what do you have in mind, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, like you bring up Stanford, and you would think a school like Stanford has to cut 11 sport.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately I'm thinking, guaranteed, because we're always in the red.
Yeah.
So I said, guaranteed we're going to be losing sport. And I know, I hate to think about it, but losing football is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, especially with how our attendance has been falling, and not getting the support that we need, and all the bump deals that we're doing with the subsidy and the agreement we have with Aloha Stadium. So, I mean, when we do get out of all of this, I hope it makes the program realize that things have to change in order for us to survive.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to start adapting and thinking out of the box and figuring out ways to just survive and make it and make progress.
Well, what do you think is going to happen, though? What do you think what are we going to do to save money? What would you do? What would Shane do if you were the athletic director?
What would we do to save money? Oh, man.
It's not an easy decision, obviously, but what would you have to do?
That's why I'm not.
But if you were, if we wanted Lau Lau Head for AD, what would Lau Lau Head do? What would he do? Lay it out there for us. Sean, start writing your stuff down, Sean, in case we can't hear you, so you can just stick it up on top of the screen. But Shane, I mean, we got sports we can cut. We got coaches we can cut. We got administrators we can cut. I mean, something's going to have to go, right? Do we take a pay? Do we take a pay furlough? I mean, what do we do?
Some hard decisions are definitely going to have to be made. And I think it's going to be, some sports are going to definitely be cut. I don't know which one, but it's going to have to be the lesser, the less popular sports.
Mm-hmm,
I mean,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
and it's hard because the non-major sports is where Hawaii excels a lot in. You know, you talk
Yeah.
about our sailing
Sailing,
program.
yeah.
Then you got the beach sand volleyball, you know, and our tennis program.
Yeah.
Even though it's not major sports that people go out and support, that's where our most success is. So it's like
It's scary because I hate to say it, this is a time too when there's sports that, you know, like Stanford cut sailing. Stanford didn't need to cut any sports. They didn't need to cut anything. They decided it because they wanted to get out there in front of everyone and just get this over with. But they were smart to do it really fast before all of this went down. But they cut men's volleyball and sailing, which are two sports that UH has. I doubt men's volleyball will be cut, but I mean there are sports that have come and gone before. I hate to say it, soccer even, and I would hate to see our soccer program go, but that's team soccer, volleyball. I mean sports at UH, like you said, are at UH we're pretty good at. Other schools will have on their chopping block, even if they are good at it. I mean Stanford's pretty good at men's volleyball. It's not that they were ever really, you know. Maybe in the MPSF or, you know, recently they haven't been winning a lot of championships, but, you know, it's competitive in men's volleyball, especially on the West Coast. I don't know, it's scary. All right, Sean's been writing away in case we can't hear him, so let's hear Sean's input now.
Okay, so I asked for 20-30% pay reduction.
Okay, nod your head if this is correct, Sean. You said 20 to 30% pay cut for all coaches and administrators.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
50% for the ADs away.
Okay, did you get that one, Shane? I cannot translate that
something
one.
about 8 weeks. Something 8 weeks, did you say?
No, 50%. 50%.
Oh, 50% cut for the AD, for the athletic director.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to keep all of your staff, that's a way of doing it. The thing is, the AD is probably going to be the one making the choices. So unless he's going to take the harakiri himself, I doubt it, because most people wouldn't. But he also is the end all. He is the department, really. He's not the state. He's not like a French, you know, monarch who has all the power invested in him. But he also is the one that is going to be the he probably. I doubt that he'll touch his own salary, but it's possible. And you're right, he could. But it's still going to be hard. It's still going to be rough. Even after all those cuts. So if you said 20 to 30% cuts, even to salaries, that only saves right there about $750,000 that I'm off the top of my head in terms of salaries. Because of $20 million in salaries, of coaches' salaries, that they're on the books for. So, I mean, you know, it just, I think that'll all help. I think not having this, but, you know, they'll have to find a way to get, probably, get some assistance from the school itself to have to pitch in to save, to give loans. Because the expenses are usually over the revenue, right? We're always in the red, like Shane said. So if we're always in the red, you're going to be in the red this year.
Yeah.
And the legislature is not exactly in a position, our own legislature, state legislature, to, you know, be just giving out any more money. So
Exactly. I mean,
there's
we
480.
already don't get the support, you know, that the program needs from
Yeah.
the state.
Yeah.
So when there's so many, you know, parts of the state that need the assistance and help to recover from this COVID,
Yeah.
I really don't see them saying, okay, we got to help the football program because
Yeah.
they're suffering as well. They're going to push the money towards other, you know, other avenues. So I don't know.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be rough. I think it's going to be a lot more than we realize in terms of the amount of cuts that are necessary, because we're not even talking about just for 1 year. We're talking about forever. We're talking about never bringing a sport back, and that's really scary because we don't as fans we never imagine like a team that we play on or cheer for ever going anywhere. Like just one day they're just poof and gone. And we already know we talked about on the show 4 months ago, Shane and I, about a professor at UH who is pretty vocal, activist minded, and will probably one day be even larger of a voice within the Native Hawaiian community, within the civic community at large, but also as a professor on the campus, talking about cutting football. That's not something that you want to, you imagine ever wanting to hear. So, I think that we're going to be in a place where we're going to have to really buckle down and talk about the hard decisions like Shane is talking about. And in Hawaii we have it's hard for people in Hawaii because culturally we don't like to have to make those tough decisions. We don't have to really change someone's livelihood, but we're all at a place right now where we really don't have a choice, and we're going to get to a place where we're talking about having to save a sport, not just talk about, put it aside for a year. We're talking about literally keep the sport going for, the rest of our lives or whatever it is. We never expect it to go. And that's always been a nightmare of mine that, one day something could happen to, the team, and it's scary. But, before that, we're all going to need to be able to get healthy. We're going to need to be able to get back to the stadium and be able to bring the revenue back as well, not just the emotional cheering and all of Lau Head's alter ego. We're gonna need all of that, but we're gonna need it on a higher scale. Like, it's gonna take a lot. Like, people are gonna have to really buckle down, and if you really like Hawaii football, it's not just about, I'm not saying sell your house, sell your car, and donate to UH. Like, really think about its place in our local culture, and if it's important to us still, we should keep building it up. If it's not, people will get rid of it. I guarantee there will be politicians, there will be professors, there will be students on campus even that will say, we don't need football, it's not important. And that's definitely a possibility. That's and that's something that I don't want to have to even consider, because it makes me really sad, and I don't want to cry anymore on this this show. But I think
So
yeah, go Shane.
kind of interesting too with the upcoming election, and our two mayoral candidates.
Yes.
They both have ties with the football program, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Langiardi getting his start as a broadcaster, Amemiya being part of the Aloha Stadium, board. So I'm curious to see what they're going to have to say. Whoever wins the election, where they're going to put UH football on their priority list, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's good. Well, first of all, we are going to have Keith Amemiya, at least. He already is going to be on the show, probably next week, actually. So
right on.
we're going to have, I'm trying to get Langiardi, so Rick, call me. I think it's perfect at this time, like, to have everybody, to have the position as a sports person that we're in, where we're, in a position that is very delicate, with funding, with, like at the stadium, we already had something, and, Senator Wakai, I think, also brought up that we could still save that piece, that last final piece. But where is the priority going to be, right? If we're in the middle of a pandemic, where are the priorities? People are going to be like, UH football, nobody even cares, I had a doctor, one of my very close friends, who's also a doctor, and this doctor sent me that video again as well with Dr. Miskovich, and was just like, what? And I was like, that's not in Hawaii, but I still agree. Like, because, that's also confusing. If you don't know what the SEC is, and you see a local doctor on TV, and you're like, oh, is this UH football? Why are we having UH football? What? This is crazy. So it already, perception-wise, doesn't look good. And it's crazy that, it's happening. But It is what it is. We'll transition from that. Let's talk about. I sent you folks as well a this diagram, and this diagram I found, it was of the soccer stadium and when fans can expect to return to stadiums, what they can do. And this isn't a soccer stadium, so this isn't in the U.S. This is in the U.K., I believe. And the reason it seems strange to be like, what would it be to go back to the stadium? We're so far away from it, but really we aren't. Honestly, we'll probably get into socially distanced stadiums pretty soon, because I think teams are going to start wanting to get the revenue. I mean, the NFL already, some teams are not going to have the game at all, which we get. And the NFL season might cancel, but even if you saw like the Green Bay Packers, they had 80% of their season ticket holders opt out. And that was shocking to them, because even in like, Green Bay, Wisconsin, where they just really love football, like, oh my God, don't you know, they just love football so much that those people are willing, 80% of them, to not opt out. That's shocking, because that's not a Green Bay thing. So even the Packers people are like, oh wow, like people aren't going to come to the games this year. Like, hello, like a lot of people actually do follow science, shockingly. But what that shows is like, hey, these teams still want to get fans in there, and they're still going to be the fans, even the ones that are kind of scared, who still would want to get into the games because, that's our livelihood, or that's who we are. They're still going to try and make it happen. Just like I think, we can keep pushing the 14-day quarantine in Hawaii as far back as we want to, but eventually we're going to have to open, obviously. We can't, we're going to have cases every week, probably the rest of the year, I'd imagine. So what does it look like? So in this one, it says like supporters can't even yell, which is hilarious. That's the funniest one to me. Fans chanting, because in football, at soccer games, you chant a lot, right? You're just singing the whole game, but it'll make for a very different atmosphere, I would say. They have the one-way system, which is kind of cool, like one way in and one way out. They would reduce the capacity to be about 25%. So for UH, that would be about like 12,000, which isn't like a huge stretch, I guess. The fans have to sign the forms. So Shane, you're gonna sign your form, Shane?
I probably would.
Yeah, I probably would too, honestly. I hate to say it. At the end of the day, I probably would, even though I'm just like, Herman Cain. Sanitizer stations, socially distanced seating, and staggered arrival times, which is kind of interesting. But I know, Sean, there were some, I don't know if you saw that, the MLS game too. Dallas had some fans there at their game. They allowed fans. So that was like one of the first kind of major American, I guess like NASCAR had fans, which is not a shocker. But like MLS, right, who is like super pro BLM, been very vocal in making sure like they went into the bubble and doing everything right. And now they're playing games outside the bubble. Now the MLS is going to try and go stadium to stadium. They even allowed fans in, and they were booing them for kneeling during the national. It was crazy, but do you see that? Is that a sustainable thing? I mean, how long can we go with that many fans, Shane? And I mean, Sean. And are you gonna try and get in on one of these games?
Personally, I probably if it comes to signing a waiver, I'm not sure if I've done that. Like I told you on Twitter, I would, but if it came out to that, yeah, MLS is retracting all like it's all on the ball with the NBA. The NBA is doing great, so yeah, I'm gonna ball, and I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. What Sean, translating again for our friend Sean, he brought up some good points about the bubble, and especially that point right there, just leaving the bubble. So letting fans in is one thing, but even the players themselves have clearly been exposed since they left Orlando and left the bubble, and that was one part of, what made the MLS so, so integral in being able to be one of the first conferences, the first leagues to come back and have competition, was the fact that they got into their bubble. And you see it in hockey yesterday, right? All the Vegas Knights fans that we have in Hawaii now everywhere. VGK won their game, and in their bubble in Edmonton, they're playing in Canada, where they have a couple bubbles going up there, and that is so smart. I mean, that's the way to do it. And we see that we're gonna go into the NBA, and we'll transition to that part now, actually, since I want to talk about that as well, the NBA, and just how well the NBA bubble has been able. No positives at all in the NBA bubble, which is pretty impressive. Given that some people leave to go get private dances, I mean chicken wings in Atlanta. But Lou Williams still putting in work when he's on the floor for the Clips, and that's one of the teams that's going to be fun to watch. The Lakers are the #1 seed in the West. Bucks are the #1 seed in the East. Shane, just give me your champ. Who do you think is going to win it this year?
To be honest, I haven't been watching, but all I know of late is all I hear is talk about Dana going crazy recently.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But who would you say? Who would be your choice if you were looking at the playoffs today and looking at the teams, and you just had to choose one? Who would you say? Who would be your team to win that NBA?
Supersonics.
So the Thunder.
Yeah.
The Thunder, then. The Thunder is what you're saying. So, yeah, the OKC Thunder, a.k.a. Supersonics, old Supersonics, Chris Paul. They even got a Polynesian on their team. Mr. Adams, the center.
They didn't make the playoffs, huh?
OKC, yeah, they're the 4th seed. They're the 5th seed, yeah. So Oklahoma's in, so you got the Lakers, the 1 seed. The Blazers are going to, so you talk about Damian Lillard. The Blazers are the 8th seed, so it's going to be a good a fight there. Rockets, Thunder, the 4-5. The 3-6 on the West is Nuggets versus Jazz, so that'll be a good game. Jokic, the Nuggets, Michael Porter Jr. Denver's been so fun to watch. The Jazz, obviously Donovan Mitchell, all those guys. Rudy Gobert, he's back. The Clips are going to be the 2nd seed playing the Mavericks, and my favorite player, Luka, on the Mavs, but I want to see the Clippers take it and go as far as they can. I'm just itching for that Clippers-Lakers Western Conference final, but I'll be interested for that. On the East side, the Bucks and the Magic are going to be in the 1-8. Going to be hard to see the Magic pull off an upset there. The Bucks are one of the best teams for sure. The Pacers and the Heat is going to be super fun series. Really good young players on both teams. The Heat, Jimmy Butler will be back. T.J. Warren has been playing well for the Pacers. It's going to be fun. The Celtics, Sixers, that's going to be a fun one, but no Ben Simmons for the Sixers. It's going to be hard for them, but Celtics have been raising their profile. Jason Tatum's so fun to watch. Another young player. So much young talent in the NBA. And the defending NBA champions, the Toronto Raptors, are the 2nd seed. And that's going to be, something to watch as well. The Raptors could do it and go far again. With no Kawhi, could make it all the way back to the finals. And they're going to play the Nets, who won't have Kyrie or KD, so it might not be their year this year. But with that being said, Sean, who's your champ, Sean? But
yeah.
Okay.
It's incredible to see all the players that stepped up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been watching a lot of NBA, but just watching it is just like a totally different game now.
No, it has been. It has been a different game. You're right. And players are playing better. Players are stepping up. Players are taking it more seriously. And I think that's the focus, too, that you get from being in a bubble, right? Being with your teammates. You never have to leave. Obviously, Phoenix going 8-0 in the bubble. Devin Booker having such a really great bubble, too. And he's another one of the great young players. The all-bubble team, it was Harden, Dame Lillard, the MVP. You had T.J. Warren. Yeah, Luka Doncic, and who else made the team? With Devin Booker, Harden, Dame. Got to go back and see, but really fun in the bubble, and I think it made it work because the fact that they kept it tight, they kept the parameters really solid in terms of who can come in, who can't come out, what are the ramifications if you leave. What are the testing like? So that's what's going to take, and that's why the NFL really going to have some challenges getting off the ground, is because they do not have those same assurances in place. Neither do the players. In college, they don't have anything. I don't know. Some of these college kids really makes me question what they're thinking when they think, like, of course they want to play. We all want to see you play, but bro, you're gonna get on the, like, you don't even know. Like, calm down. And then, yikes. Like, we're trying to get the NFL going. Like, college, good luck. But you know, even with the money, it's hard. Money can't shield you from the virus if you're just keeping yourself open to it. So we'll see how that goes from there. And you know, players are gonna opt out. More players will probably opt out too. And we'll see if they can successfully make that work. But the NBA Finals, I would love to see Lakers Clippers, and my pick in the West, having them both play in the finals. In the East, I would love to see I'd like to see like the Heat or the Pacers. Somebody come out of there. I think it's possible. I mean, it's loaded everywhere. The West is loaded. Anything can happen. It's exciting. So tomorrow the playoffs start. Everybody, if you're a basketball junkie, it's really exciting because you get to watch all the games. It's like if you missed out in the NCAA tournament this year and you couldn't watch the March Madness, you're going to get a chance to watch NBA all day from morning until night. So it's one of the few times that we get a chance to do that. So that'll try and maybe soften the wounds a little bit for football season. But I don't know if that'll still. Shane will probably still going to have a bunch of wounds to lick of his own, though, huh, Shane?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. But I mean, got a lot of blessings to be thankful for, but it's still going to be a rough fall season.
Yep, it'll be rough. What are your plans, Sean? What are you going to do to make up the time? Watch basketball. Well, that's going to be my advice to you as well. Get lost in the game of basketball. Hopefully the next Space Jam will be out too, and we'll have something else to talk about, and life will be at least less painful with playoffs. I mean, if you're a hockey fan, obviously you got playoffs going already, so that's all exciting. But anything else from my gallery? Thanks, Shane and Sean, for joining me again.
Yeah. But I gotta give props to your Rams too, because they're on the Hard Knocks.
Oh yeah.
I watched the Hard Knocks because my wife is a Chargers fan.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So,
it was fun. I mean, what was your moment from Hard Knocks? What was your moment from Hard Knocks that you liked?
That one Rams cornerback. He's like a journeyman cornerback, and he was like, and he's all like the fast clock. Forget his name. You know which guy's talking about?
It's like DeAndre. DJ. Yeah, he's a practice teamer, right? And that was cool. That's the thing. Like that show gives you a chance to see some of these guys, and he's cocky or whatever, but he knows that he's lucky to just be where he is himself for who he is. He doesn't think he's anybody else, and he stays in shape. You gotta admit, he looked pretty good. He keeps himself in shape.
Was that the same guy that he was like going to Aaron Donald? And that was the same guy.
Same guy where he was like, "Whoa, Aaron Donald, I see you posting pictures, bro. Look at my muscles." But that was funny. Seeing the Jalen Ramsey thing where he got mad at the reporters. That was kind of funny. It is weird. It is a weird. Yeah.
He had a good point though. That was his answer.
He did. He could have said something else too. He could have said I'm not worried about it. But he did say that later on. He did. He ranted because the reporter asked him, is it important for you to have a long-term deal done before you get on with the year? And he was just like, my agent's worried about that, which is a good answer. But they kept pressing him, and it was funny because all like Zoom, and he's talking to a board of reporters. But great show. HBO Hard Knocks is Tuesdays, I believe. Tuesday nights. Sean, any moments from Hard Knocks that we can decipher over your line of communication? Only for Game of Thrones season, I'm assuming, right? Only for Game of Thrones.
I tried watching Game of Thrones, I didn't get into it. So I'm one of those 8 people that didn't watch Game of Thrones.
Well, I am not one of those people, so definitely go and watch it. I don't know if I could watch it all over again. I mean, I started watching it in 2011, so I should probably go back and watch it from back then to see what it was like. But that's something to do during football season, I guess. A list of all the things you could do during football season successfully. Watch Game of Thrones from front to end. But I think that's all we got. Mahalo for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time.